win, dude. I actually have a lot of fun with RedSec, but what's going on, guys? This is Decisive back from my hiatus of streaming and making videos. We're going to be kind of full sailing with Battlefield 6. We'll be discussing specifically what the game kind of looks and feels like after 100 hours. Now, I've been pretty enveloped myself in the game for the past couple of weeks, so this is really more of about 200 hours into the game, but a couple of key things that I want to talk about is where the game's going to go, how the maps play out, all the bugs and exploits in the game, vehicle balance, infantry balance, gunplay balance, things that were changed recently with the big update that just came out yesterday, and kind of just like the overall flow of the game and how we're going to move forward and how the company's going to keep players invested in the game, whereas keeping them entertained and providing better feedback and just overall player-based happiness with kind of how the game plays, and comparing it to 2042 a little bit, even though this game is nothing like 2042. They gutted the movement from the open beta that we kind of got, which we saw once the game was launched, that we actually got a completely different sandbox compared to what we were playing. So we kind of got, you know, 180'd a little bit with this is what we play, what we were expecting, and then that's not what it was. And you know, it's a little misleading. It's not the end of the world, but it is, transparency is already kind of out the window with the company for me as a whole. It doesn't mean that I lose their trust or value or anything like that, but as a company, it's a bit misleading. But as a community stand from the developers and community assistants like Trigger and Dunkers, dude, they're pretty responsive on all the platforms for Reddit and Twitter and everything like that. So they're helping out a lot. They're doing what they can. They're putting out the information. But overall, this is a massive upgrade from 2042. There was no surprise there. I don't like comparing the game to 2042, but you know, we'll get more into that. But specifically here, a little bit of thing with like the weapon gunplay. So as you see here in the fire range, specifically with Recon,
so I wonder,
you have a bigger hitbox with the sniper.
I wonder.
Also, they did already talk about this, but if you shoot someone in the chin, which you'll see later in this clip, it doesn't count as a headshot, and it should. So it hasn't been fixed yet, but they did address that the chin is not being touched as being a headshot when it should be. See there, it wasn't a headshot, and it's clearly a headshot. Other parts of this clip, the hitbox for Recon is up to 3 times bigger than what it is for the other classes. You also can't steady your aim and things like that. So playing Recon with the sniper has its benefits, but people are saying, man, the sniper feels really good when they're aiming at people. Yeah, that's because the headshot hitbox is triple the size in the class. That's part of the hidden perk. On top of that, let's talk about the game's bugs and desync issues. Here, Enders, right there, you just died. He's clearly behind the wall, right?
Oh my god, worst desync I've ever seen.
Hysterical. I have plenty of that myself, but that was like the best desync death I think I've seen. So I was lucky enough to ask for the clip, and he sent it to me happily. So shout out to Enders for that. Now, with the maps themselves, unfortunately, Breakthrough is pretty bad for the map layouts themselves and how they play. As you can see here in these clips, though, we're focusing more on all the bugs. Like, obviously, this game is, you know, only a month in its life cycle, so things to work out. But anyways, overall, Breakthrough is a game that I play solo queue. Just it's easier for me to get clips from and farm a little bit, things like that. But overall, when I'm playing with the boys, we play Conquest more. I think Conquest like clears the game in between the 2 game modes. So there's no real argument there to be had, honestly, especially with the exploits with the drone, which were finally patched out. But you know, that made Manhattan Bridge, Subic City, Empire State, Siege of Cairo, like all those maps were unplayable because people are just getting on top of the roofs, exploiting, getting in places where they're not supposed to be. Now, as for the gunplay, with the most recent adjustment from yesterday, for the specifically the assault rifles and coming out of your sprint to fire for the egregious amount of spread right out the gate, that did get fixed. I tested it in the range, specifically with the NVO and the SCAR and some of the LMGs. It felt good. I played later. It was fairly noticeable. Some other players have said they don't notice the difference. the majority have said they notice a difference. So I'm gonna go with overall it's in the right direction of getting fixed. I would also say that it's not 100% fixed, but it feels much better. So we're not getting just Beamatron by SMGs. ARs do actually have a fighting chance now at the ranges they're supposed to be effective in, which goes back to gunplay. Overall gunplay itself is TTK is super quick. Everything kind of just annihilates you in their specific ranges respectively. But even at the longer ranges, man, if you can put your crosshair on the target and they're not moving or they're running in a linear direction, it's very easy to score that kill, which is a little different than 2042. This game punishes you for aggressive movement without thinking about where you're going to go next, i.e., am I going to run across an open field or am I going to run cover to cover to hit the flank, things like that. If you are not thinking about that while you're moving forward in the map or any other direction to get to the next position, you will just be punished for it and die immediately, and that has been frustrating for a lot of players, specifically the players who did not play the prior Battlefield and are coming straight from 2042 to this. They're not happy with it, and you know, the hard to swallow pill is it is 100% a skill issue. But overall, I mean, this plays more like Battlefield 3's slower movement speed with a bit of Battlefield 4-esque for me. But in reality, the game makes you think more than you did in 2042 just because we had so much more movement and skill gap that you could get away with your movement saving you out of scenarios where, in other words, like in this game, you get punished for. So I do like that change. I think it kind of separates the pros from the new generation of players who were kind of spoiled from 2042. Yeah, 2042 overall was a dumpster fire. It had its moments, but at the end of the day, 2042, for a skill set game-wise, was just non-existent. It was a very much to the max arcade shooter, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you come back to more of a, I gotta tone it down and think more tactically, things like that, that's kind of where Battlefield shines when you separate the games between like Halo and Fortnite and Call of Duty and Apex, etc., right? So like you got your different genres, they're all first-person shooters, arcades, but then you kind of have like Battlefield who has its own little niche, right? And that's what makes the game exciting, that's what makes the game more rewarding and more frustrating. So, again, with more of the bugs out there, there are some more that I'm not going to touch on just because I'm not going to be that guy that highlights them so other people from like TikTok or YouTube Shorts can come and abuse them because it's frustrating. Real quick, I want to talk about vehicle balance in this game. It is needing a massive rework still. They're trying to fix it, and I can respect what they're doing, but overall, it is still a hot mess. Specifically with the IFV being able to shoot people out through flares and everything like that, and then the attack chopper also can lock onto a jet, and it won't have any indicators until right before they get hit. So, Ash made a video about that, and I saw that, pointed that out. Pretty bad. So hopefully they fix that and get a rework going on there. But for the vehicle mains, I feel your pain. Honestly, you're kind of in the, you know, long haul for a winning game, unfortunately. But they did address it. It's being worked on. And then the other side of the coin is when you get a squad who is very coordinated and knows what they're doing in vehicles, i.e. the GOAT himself, Silk, in the jets and attack helicopters, you get these comms, and they're just able to mog the entire server. This is just a small tidbit from the game where he dropped 200 plus kills. And we're just going to sit here and enjoy the massacre.
Park to B, copy, got it.
Seaside, coming out seaside again.
Great start, dude.
Nice.
Holy shit! Yo, Spriter, thank you for the 7 gifters. Unero, thank you for the 5. What the hell? Dude, thank you guys. I gotta stay locked in though. I gotta stay locked in. We're on world record kind of pace at the moment. They're doing really well.
Close on A, close on A.
I'm committing to that kill.
I think he died.
Okay, he died. Yeah, I think so. Must be.
Yeah, below.
Oh, you're looking? Good pace, good pace. Jeez, guys, what the hell? One sec.
beautiful work from
Pushing the D,
coordinated
pushing the D.
teamwork. Obviously, in a vehicle, you can just run the entire server, as I said.
Copy.
Overall, the game is in a good fundamental state. It obviously needs tweaking, specifically with desync, netcoding, balancing infantry gameplay, etc. Vehicles massively. And then to keep players invested, right, they need to focus on the maps being better quality, maybe making some bigger maps for the guys who are complaining if the maps are too small. I personally disagree with them, but that's okay. Overall, right now as the game stands with this most recent patch, it's sitting at about a 7 out of 10 for me. Take that with a grain of salt, because on bad days, this drops immediately to a 5. Okay, I could go on and on and on about all the other problems with the game, but these are the big talking points I wanted to hit right now. These are the big things that I think need to be highlighted in what they're working on, and they have addressed it, so I'm happy with the feedback we're getting back from the developers for these fixes. So, keep you guys updated. We'll be posting more clips, more videos, and tutorials, and map balancing, and how to work around the maps, and maybe some weapon lists. I don't know. Really, all the weapons are viable, but I'll catch you guys in the next one.